Hello beautiful people of the internet, how are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my channel. I am sorry that I'm a horrible person. I didn't film a video for 2 weeks. I've been busy. I've had a lot going on. I'm at the end of my semester in school, and honestly, when I did have free time, I just didn't feel like filming a video, so I didn't. I'm sorry, I know I'm the worst, but I am here today and I'm going to be doing part 2 of a series that I was working on. Last time I posted the best books that I read in high school. And today in this video, I'm going to be talking about the worst books that I read in high school. The required reading assignments that I personally could not stand. So I'm going to be talking about 5 different books that were assigned to me in high school, and one that was actually assigned to me in middle school. I don't remember exactly what grade I was in, and I just remember that I hated all of these books. Some of them I actually really don't remember much of the plot, other than the fact that reading them was a chore and I didn't enjoy them. So this will be fun to see what I can remember about these books. So the first book that I had to read in school that I really did not like was assigned to me during my freshman year of high school, and that was Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Or is it Hesse? I think it's Hesse, but I don't really know. This book is about a young man named Siddhartha and his journey, his spiritual journey, his journey towards enlightenment. And all I really remember about this book is that I just didn't understand anything that was going on. I mean, I was reading this book when I was 14 years old, and it's not really a plot-driven book. It's deep. It's talking about, journey towards spiritual enlightenment. And 14-year-old me just could not connect with this book at all. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't care, and I just wanted to be done with it. I remember that when we were reading this book, my teacher would give us reading quizzes on it that were so specific. They would ask for really specific details about the chapters we'd read that were mentioned in like one line, and I would always be like, I read these chapters. I did the reading, and I don't know the answer. My freshman year of high school English teacher was an interesting person. If she ends up seeing this somehow, I'm not saying I dislike her or anything. She was just interesting. She was definitely smart. She had a degree from Columbia, so clearly that tells you she is definitely not an idiot. I remember that she loved Bono, Bono from U2, like she had a big crush on Bono, and I remember there was one time I was really annoyed with her. This is gonna sound like I'm think I'm better than everyone else, but it's not how I mean it. I just remember one time we had an essay. I don't even remember what the essay was on, and when she passed them back, she had given me a B-, but she had not written any comments on the paper. So I was very confused because I never get B-s on papers. Writing is one thing that I know I'm good at. Am I good at math? Not really. Am I good at science? No, but writing I am good at. So I went to her and I asked her, why did you give me a B- on this? I'm not complaining. I just want to know what I did wrong so I can improve. And so she looked at it and she said, oh, well, I probably graded you too harshly, but that's just because you're such a good writer and I hold you to a higher standard than the other students. I'll look at it again. And so she looked at it again, still only gave me a B+, and still had not written any comments on it. So freshman year English was a trying time for me. So the next book that I had to read in high school that I really did not like was actually assigned to me as summer reading going into sophomore year. Everybody loves some good summer reading, right? And pretty much every book that I had assigned for summer reading in high school was horrible, or ones that I personally did not enjoy. So the book that was assigned to me as summer reading going into sophomore year of high school was The Odyssey, Homer's epic poem. And this is not light, easy summer reading. I mean, it's long and there's a lot of stuff going on. So 15-year-old Jackie reading this by herself in the summer with no one to ask her questions to just didn't know what was going on. When we finally talked about the book in September when classes started, I had read it, and honestly, huge chunks of it I just didn't remember. Like, the teacher would say something and I'd be like, wait, that happened in this book? Like, I blocked portions of it out of my memory, I guess. I didn't know what was going on. I also think now that I've read several other epic poems, it's just not a style that I really like. I didn't like the Odyssey. I didn't really connect with Beowulf when I read that in high school. And this semester for the class I'm taking on Spanish history, I had to read this Spanish epic poem called The Song of El Cid, and I didn't really like that either. So I just think that's a format that personally doesn't really work for me, that I don't really like. I will say I did learn to appreciate my sophomore year English teacher. For the first half of the year, he absolutely terrified me, but that was just because he really wanted to challenge us, and he asked a lot of us, probably more than any other English teacher I had in high school, so I was scared of him the first half of the year, but in the end, I think I got a lot out of his class, so hi, Mr. Shirts, if you're watching this. You're probably not, but if someday you stumble upon this, know that I appreciated you, even if you kind of terrified me. The next book that I really did not like in high school was also summer reading. This was assigned to me going into freshman year. So I was 14, about to go into high school, reading this over the summer by myself, and that was Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. This is a really important piece of African literature. It talks about the customs of the Igbo tribe and then the Christian missionaries who come in and threaten their way of life. I don't remember a lot about this book. I remember certain random plot points, and I remember that I didn't enjoy it. Our main character is this guy named Okonkwo, who's really famous in his village. He's super obsessed with his masculinity, and so he never wants to be perceived as weak. I just remember really random things about this book. Like, I remember apparently in this African tribe, it was considered like taboo or like evil to give birth to twins. So if a woman gives birth to twins, then the tribe like kills them both or leaves them out to die of exposure or something like that. Evidently that deeply scarred 14-year-old me, because that's one of the only things about this book that I remember. And I remember the ending, but I won't say what that is in case one of you out there like actually wants to read this and doesn't want to know the ending. But I just remember that this was a book that did not connect with me at all. And again, I think it was partially because it was summer reading and it was just not fun to read by myself over the summer. With this and Siddhartha, I wonder if maybe I was just too young at the time when I was reading it. Maybe I would feel differently about them if I reread them. But the thing is, the memories I have associated with them are so negative that I kind of don't want to give them another chance.
So, hi. You probably noticed that we completely changed positions, and the lighting might now be different. But that's because earlier when I was filming, my roommate got back from work an hour earlier than she normally is and interrupted me. So I had to play it cool because she doesn't know that I have a YouTube channel and act like I wasn't embarrassed when I really, really was. So anyway, we're gonna move back to the list and hopefully get through this quickly so I don't have to endure the embarrassment of being caught filming again. The next book that I had to read in school and I really, really hated, it was assigned to me in middle school. I don't remember exactly what grade I was in. I think maybe like 6th or 7th. And this book was Hatchet by Gary Paulson. I don't want to say this is a boys book because obviously I think it's really stupid to say all boys like this sort of thing and all girls like this sort of thing. There are boys who like typically feminine things and girls who like stereotypically masculine things, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, as like about a 12-year-old female, this book was not at all interesting at all. Basically, this book is about a 13-year-old boy. I don't remember what his name is, and he is on a little plane going to visit his dad, I think. Just him and the pilot, and then on their way, the pilot has a heart attack and dies, and the plane crashes in the middle of the wilderness where he has to survive until help comes with only his hatchet, which his mom gave it to him like as a gift. I don't remember why. Like, who gives their 13-year-old son a weapon as a gift? But this book was just so incredibly boring because the entire plot is just following this kid living alone in the wilderness trying to survive on his own, and it was just so boring. Like, and what really amazes me is this apparently turned into like a 5-book series. I don't know what the author went on about for the next 4 books because this first one was painful to get through. Middle school, I really didn't enjoy any of the books that we read. I honestly have forgotten what most of them were by now. I just remember being constantly frustrated that every book I had to read in middle school had a male protagonist. We never read books with a main female character, except for To Kill a Mockingbird, which we read in 8th grade. Every other single one had a young male protagonist. And I think that's due to the fact that, I don't want to go on a tangent here because this could be a total video in itself. I think our society says that books with male protagonists are for everyone and books with female protagonists are for girls. Boys are not taught to empathize with the empathize with the female perspective in literature. So series like Harry Potter were read by everyone, but stories like The Hunger Games, a lot of boys I knew didn't read them because they were for girls. So the next book that I read in school and really hated was assigned reading sophomore year of high school, and that was Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Joseph Conrad was actually one of the favorite authors of my late grandfather, and I feel bad that I hated this book so much because apparently he really liked it, but this book just bored me to death. It's following this guy who goes on a trading vessel or something down in the Congo in Africa. And so it's really about colonialism, and I don't remember anything that happens in this book. I remember the horror, and the basic premise. It's about colonialism, and I don't think there's like a single female character in this entire book. Which personally, it's really hard for me to get emotionally invested in something when there's no women in it. Like, you couldn't have just put like one woman in this book somewhere. It's not that hard. And it's like, I just feel like public schools constantly force all of us to read male-centric stories. Where are the books with the female protagonists? Because the books I read in school that had female protagonists, and most of the ones that were by female authors, I read on a project for myself. The male classmates did not have to read those. And even if we did read something by a female author, the protagonist she was writing about was usually male. And I just don't think that's fair. If you're gonna force me to read all of these male-centric stories, but the guys never have to read from a female perspective, that's really one-sided and just not fair. Looking at this book's Wikipedia page right now, apparently Chinua Achebe, the same author that wrote Things Fall Apart, which I talked about earlier, gave a lecture criticizing Heart of Darkness and saying how it was racist and dehumanized Africans, and he doesn't think it's a good work of literature. And wow, that's something that Chinua Achebe and I can agree on. This is not a great work of literature. It's awful. I'm sorry to my dead grandfather who liked this book so much, but it was so boring. I hated it so much. Now, this was supposed to be a top 5 list, but then before I filmed this, I remembered another book that I read senior year of high school, again, over the summer, and I think this is the book that I hated the most out of all of them. I thought it was so bad that I physically could not finish it. I hated it that much. And this book is called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, an Inquiry into Values by Robert M. Pirsig. You've probably never heard of this book. I'd never heard of it until it was assigned to me. And honestly, I envy you because this book was so awful. I hated it. I hated it more than any other book in this video. I physically could not get through it. It was that bad. This book is basically one really long philosophy lecture, and I found it so painful. It's sort of a fictionalized autobiography. Like, it's based on the author's real experiences, but he's not presenting it as an autobiography. He sort of dramatizes events from his real life. So basically, this follows the author and his son Chris on this cross-country motorcycle journey, and he's just having these big philosophical discussions in his head along the way, which he's sharing with you, the reader. Oh, joy. And it was so bad. He refers to these philosophical discussions as chautauquas, and for the assignment, every single one of us had to write our own chautauqua. I don't even remember what I wrote about, because I think I think I've learned doing this video that I hate two things: epic poems and philosophy, because that's a common thread that some of these books I hated have in common. Also, the narrator is tying all of these Chautauquas together by talking about his past self, who he refers to as Phaedrus. I don't remember why he gives his past self this name, and he talks about how Phaedrus, when he was a professor, became obsessed with finding out what makes good writing and what makes quality with a capital Q, you know, his way of defining goodness, and basically this eventually drove him crazy until he ended up needing electroshock therapy because he had a mental breakdown. And like, what is even happening in this book? I don't know. I was reading it and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't care. I wasn't interested. And it was so hard for me to find an online summary of this book because there's no Spark Notes for it. Eventually, I did find a website that summarized the rest of the book, and I just read that instead of finishing the book because I physically couldn't do it. I always hated how people in high school would decide that instead of reading a book, they were going to just read the Spark Notes and they thought that would supplement it. Because my attitude is you should at least give the book a try. You know, maybe you'll like it. There were some classics that I read in high school that I didn't like, and lots that I did. So I think you should at least give the book a shot. And then if you physically can't finish it, then you can use the Spark Notes. But this is the one book I read in high school that I didn't finish. I'm pretty sure it's the only one. Every other one, even all the other ones that I hated, I actually read them. This one, I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. My soul could not handle it. This book was killing me. It was killing my spirit. I hated it so much that I think I've blocked it mostly out of my memory. It was only when I was making this video that I remembered, oh yeah, I actually read that trash. So guys, those are the worst books that I read in middle school and high school. I'm sorry if one of these books is one of your faves. These are just my personal opinions, and you know, if you like them, that's a perfectly valid opinion. Thing is, people can read different books and all have their own different opinions about them. That is fine. Let me know in the comments, what were the worst books that you were required to read in high school? Please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and enjoy my new outro that I just made. Bye!